Hi, my name is Abby Picard. I use she, her pronouns. I graduated from George Mason in 2018 with a bachelor's in social work and a minor in women and gender studies. I am a social worker, and my current position is the Human Trafficking and Sexual Violence Coordinator for Fairfax County. I work within Domestic and Sexual Violence Services, which is a part of the Department of Family Services. The concept that I use most in my work that I learned from my women and gender studies education is understanding intersectionality of oppression, and specifically intersectionality on a systems-wide scale. So when I took my Intro to Women and Gender Studies course, we read Kimberly Crenshaw's Mapping the Margins, which specifically talks about violence against women of color and how that intersection of being a woman and being a person of color directly impact access to services when someone has experienced violence. There are pieces of that piece that I think about to this day, particularly in my work when I think about who is able to access services both within my organization and across the community response. And when looking at sexual violence as an intersectional issue, we can understand there's a disparate impact on certain populations and certain communities in the county. You're taught in social work to look at the biopsychosocial spiritual perspective, really understanding that people exist on an individual level, but the systems that allow them access to basic needs are based in racism, are based in patriarchy, are based in systems that have intentionally kept some people from accessing the services that they need, accessing the resources that they need. And women and gender studies helped me to understand that when we talk about underserved populations, we're really talking about under-resourced populations. People who are unable to access services is one thing, but people who are unable to meet their basic needs are not able to engage in something like therapy, because it doesn't really matter how much therapy you do with someone if they don't have a place to sleep at night. When I took gender, sexuality, and disability, it really broke open my brain into understanding how my experiences as a disabled person were based in the same systems of my experience based on my gender and my experience based on my sexuality. I was able to make those connections, and it really changed the way that I see the world and the way that I see myself. Having an understanding of the context in which we live allows us to move forward as a society. The history of women and gender studies as a discipline, as an academic discipline, and the work that's done is based in activism for social change. My entire field of sexual and domestic violence is something that was not widely recognized in the way it is now without the work of feminists, without the work of anti-racist advocates, without the work of activism. It's not just about history, it's about understanding systemic oppressions that impact us as a society and as people. And the idea that women and gender studies is something that only exists in theoretical concepts or only exists in debates ignores the idea that when we implement praxis in our work, whatever that work is, we have work that is richer, that supports the progress of social change, and makes that day-to-day impact, which becomes a lasting impact over time. Having that knowledge that your women and gender studies degree has given you puts you at an advantage for people who don't have that theoretical understanding of systems of power. So you have so much opportunity, and it can be overwhelming having so many choices. But if you identify the things that you enjoyed most about your degree, the activities that you enjoyed doing the most, and the skills that you have built in your time in school, those are going to be the things that direct you into where you want to go in the job market and where you want to go next with your education.